Because of ignorance, everybody is fighting. To win, I think, to win something that exists in their mind. But the problem is, how can they win something that exists in their mind? By fighting. If they can understand that, if all of us can understand that, we will stop fighting. Until that, we will fight. We will fight to gain, achieve, acquire things, because we strongly believe that things exist. But it's a mental illusion. If it is a mental illusion, actually people fight to achieve some kind of a mental illusion. Will they stop? If this is a real war, I'm not talking only about that war currently going on. Your life is a war. We have to fight. You all have to fight. When we go to school, we learn how to fight, to acquire things, because we need to own things. Otherwise, we will feel that we will be losers. To win, we need to acquire things. We need to feel that we have something. Our society always teaches us to acquire things, to gain things, and feel complete. But the problem is, if this is a mental illusion, and if you try to achieve those things, you never stop this. You will do this until you will realize that this is a mental illusion. Therefore, there is only one way to stop these wars. There is only one way. Until that, everybody will fight and kill each other, harm each other, and go to hell. When they come back from hell, again they will start the same thing. Because that's the only thing they have to do. That's why this is, actually, ladies and gentlemen, this is so dangerous. This is so dangerous because if you don't understand the Dhamma, you will continuously do this, continuously harm other people to achieve things. Perhaps you won't kill anyone, but you will harm. You will abuse. You have to do that. Because no one is ready to give anything. You have to acquire. In that case, you have to fight. Sometimes you have to protect your things, because those things are very valuable. When they are valuable, you can't give them up. Therefore, you have to do something to protect. If someone steals your things and you have to protect it, perhaps you will harm them and protect it. Everybody believes that everything is valuable. Therefore, everything has a price. And every man has a price as well. Everything has a price. Everything is valuable. I think you can't buy a packet of cow dung for free. It's only cow dung. But it's not free. You can't get it for free. You have to pay. In that case, it is also valuable. Then if you try to steal someone's cow dung, you will be harmed. Therefore, this war, this fight, will continue. And it has been. This is not the first fight. And it has been there. And it will continue. It will continue until people realize that everything is a mental illusion. All these things are mental illusions. Apart from energy, whatever you see is a mental illusion. If these things are mental illusions, you will stop fighting and you will stop acquiring things. But right now you have to do. You have to do because you believe that they are very precious. If they are precious, then you have to acquire them because your mind is vexed to acquire them. Your mind always believes that they are very, very valuable, they are precious. When the mind thinks like that, the mind can't control itself. That's why here, if I have a 5,000 rupee note, and if I try to tear it, how would you feel? Because you have a value in it regarding that object, whatever it is. This is valuable. This is valuable. Everything is valuable. When everything is valuable, automatically there will be a tendency in your mind to protect them. And you try to save them. Because the mind is vexed. Because the mind believes that it is very valuable. When it comes to children, you strongly believe that they are very valuable. Because you see a child. When you see a child, if something happens to that child, you can't tolerate it. You can't tolerate it, therefore you try to help them. That's why people who are looking for donations, they post children's photos and all these things. Because when you see them, your mind starts vexing. When your mind starts vexing, then you can't control it, then you have to do something to come out of that vexation. That's how you donate. Because you always see the value. Everything is valuable to you. Because you believe in objects. You believe in beings. You strongly believe that beings exist. You strongly believe that objects exist. When you believe that objects exist, automatically values are added to those objects. If this object exists, and if this object also exists, now there are two objects, therefore two different values. Those values can be vary, but it has a value. You always give a value. When you give a value, you give that value in your mind. It is precious to you. If you have a necklace that is given by your grandmother who passed away recently, it is valuable to you. You can't lose it. You will fight for it. You have a value. I know you all want to stop this war. Perhaps you want to send a letter to prime ministers and presidents. But can you stop fighting? Can you stop fighting? If you can stop fighting, then they will stop. While you are fighting, you ask from them to stop. Therefore, I think, first of all, we need to stop fighting. This is how we can win the war. A war is also an effect. It is created right now. It manifests right now. If you stop, it will stop. That's why I always tell you, that doesn't happen because of a man, because of a president or a prime minister. It happens because of nature. It happens right now. Because everybody creates this. But we blame some people. But it's wrong. Therefore, if we can use the Buddha's method, we can completely eradicate this problem. At least, if we can practice, we can completely eradicate this from our mind. Then we will have a war-free mind. If you like, we can practice, we can learn and practice, then we will have a war-free mind, fight-free mind. If we have a fight-free mind, then we will achieve serenity, mental serenity. In order to do so, you need to understand the world. You need to understand these objects. You need to understand beings. When you understand beings and objects, then you will realize about yourself and other people as well as objects. Let's try. This is the only way. No matter how hard you fight for things, but that's not the way, and you won't achieve anything. This is the only way. That's why I always tell you, ladies and gentlemen, you can learn something, you can get a good education, but after that, you always try to achieve something that doesn't exist in the world. You pay $100. You pay $100 to this, and you pay $20 to this. But both of them are the same. But in your mind, you have different values. Everything is the same, but you have different values in your mind. When you have different values in your mind, you try to pay more. You try to add values. And you try to fight for it. You can't stop yourself, therefore you will continuously fight. Therefore this fight won't have an end. Or you can finish this. You can finish your war. The Buddha said, that is the greatest victory. The Buddha said that is the greatest victory if you can win yourself. Because there is a huge fight within you. The only reason is ignorance. Because of ignorance, there is a big war. You always fight. You always build and fight, and sometimes you destroy. You build, you destroy, you maintain, you try to protect them. Therefore, actually, you are the Trimurti. In Hinduism, there is a concept called Trimurti. Creator, destroyer, protector. Three things. You create the world. You create the world. You create your own world. You destroy your own world. You maintain your own world. You protect your own world. In your world, you have different values. That's why I told you, ladies and gentlemen, this is a pen. This is a pen, but it has different values in your own world. Just imagine that. It can't be. If this is a pen, and this must have a certain value, constant value. But you have different values in your mind. That means you always give values to objects because those objects are created in your mind. This object is created in your mind. You associate with this object all the time. And you add values to this. Because of that, your mind gets attached to this. After that, your mind is vexed. That's how you lost your mental serenity. When the mind is vexed, you always lose your mental serenity. The only reason behind this is ignorance. You don't know about the pen. Somehow, if we can understand this, we will win. Therefore, this is the only victory you can achieve. Therefore, let's understand these things. In our sermons, let's try to understand these things. Let's try to understand objects and beings and the world. The world that is created in your mind. Let's understand that. Let's talk about the truth. Let's only think about the truth. The Buddha asked us to practice the truth. That means we have to go through the truth. We need to understand, and we have to always think about the truth. Actually, we go beyond the truth. We add our mental illusions into things that we observe. When you see this pen, you only see a color. But your mind creates an object. Now, this is not an object. Whatever you observe or whatever you see is a color. If this is a color, why do you create an object? Not only that, you create that object, and after that you add some values to that as well. Therefore, it has different values in your mind, in your world. But if you can believe only what you see, only what you observe, you will see the truth. If you can stop adding things to it, by seeing a person, if you can stop adding things to that, you can save yourself. But if you add, you always put or you always add things that doesn't belong to that thing. Like this pen. You only see a color. The color blue is seen. That's it. That's the mind. The mind can't see a pen. The mind can only see a color. The mind can't see a pen, but you see a pen. How? When you see a pen, you took some facts from your memory and you add those facts into this pen. Pen means those colors. You saw perhaps colors, you saw colors, and because of that, a shape is created in your mind. Then you identify it as a pen and you add an object into that. You put it. You added it. Here you can't see a person. You only see some colors. You means the mind is created for colors. Actually, a color is the mind. A color is created, that means the mind is created. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. These 5 things, these 5 steps occur. When these 5 steps occur, the process of the mind occurs. When the process of the mind occurs, a color perceived. A color is perceived, or sound is perceived, whatever. Therefore, a perception of a sound is the mind. Therefore, when you see this, you see a color. That means the mind is created. The mind is created not for an object. The mind is created only for colors. Colors are perceived. Not objects are perceived. Not beings are perceived. Why did you add beings into this? Can you stop that? When you see this type of shape, can you stop adding a person into that? But it happens automatically. It happens automatically because the mind always makes a decision. When it gets colors, sounds, taste, touch, basic things, the mind has to make a decision. Because the mind has to create all these things, ladies and gentlemen. Living is not easy. Living is not that easy. We have to create all the things because naturally it doesn't create. We have to create. We have to create because colors are perceived. After that, shapes are created. After that, we have to interpret them. The mind has to interpret it. Therefore, the mind has to take all the facts from its memory and add into that and creates all the details. Because details are not there. When you see this, only the color blue is perceived. That's the only thing which is perceived here. After that, you have to add further details. Therefore, the mind is so busy to add details into that. The mind has to do this. That's called living. Perceiving things and adding things and again perceiving it, that's called living. Perhaps you think that going to school is living. Doing a job is living. That's not living. Notifying, identifying, perceiving, that's living. That's your job. And again, you had to add some values into that, and again perceiving. Actually, that's our job. If you have a mind, that's the purpose of the mind. The mind has to do that because the mind can't see a picture. The mind always sees some colors. After that, the mind has to create it. After that, the mind has to take facts from its memory and add into that. After that, it has to perceive it until it will be satisfied. The mind has to do this over and over again to be satisfied. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. That's why I told you, living is not that easy. Everybody has to do that. Then if you have extra wantings, now you have to do that. You have to create it. You have to create it and perceive it. It's like, I give you some colors, then I ask you to draw a picture and perceive it and enjoy it, finally. Because I can't give you a drawing. I can only give you some colors. I will give you some colors and you draw a picture and you perceive it and you enjoy it. If you can't enjoy it, you can draw another one and enjoy it. This is how it is. This bouquet of flowers is created in your mind. It is not in there. Some energy is there. But those colors are perceived in the mind. After that, it is aggregated. And the shape manifests. That shape is perceived. And you always add some values into that. Then you perceive it again. Automatically it becomes an object. Then it becomes a valuable object. And the mind gets attached to that. Therefore, the mind is vexed. Therefore, the mind wants to associate with it. This is how the story. That will happen over and over again. If you can't be satisfied with this, then you have to create another one. To create another one, you have to, first of all, you have to see some colors. After that, you have to create a flower. And then after that, you have to create a bouquet in your mind. Then add some values into that. Because, this flower is that flower. And you can see that. You can identify different flowers. And perhaps this is 15 rupees, the other one is 50 rupees. Why? Both of them are flowers. Both of them are energy. But in your mind, it has different values. Because you like this perhaps. Therefore, you want to add more value into that. Therefore, when you see this, if this bouquet is created with some kind of flowers, in your mind, you will give some more values into that. What is it? What is the real value? Tell me, what is the real price of this? That means you had to You have to get rid of all the things from your mind and just I can't say see, because you can't see this. You have to think about the object, which means the process. This is only a process. That's the real value. This is only a process because colors are created in your mind, which means colors are your mind. Smells are your mind. Now here, there is some energy, a process of energy. What is the value of that? What is the real cost of that? And what about this? This is not a bouquet. This is a bouquet and this is a pen. Apart from these colors, smell and all these things, that means if you take your mind away from this, then this is a process of energy and this is also a process of energy. Now tell me, what is the real price of these two? What is the real price? In that case, you can see both of them have the same price. But in your mind, you have added many things to this and it has different values. When it comes to your wedding, you don't need this, I think, do you? Perhaps a sign, after that you don't want. But you need that because of your wanting. You have a different wanting, therefore you need different objects. In your wedding, this is very valuable. This is more valuable than this. And in your funeral also, this is more valuable. When it comes to your education, this is valuable. Now you can see. Values are added due to your wantings, not because of nature. Naturally, both of them are the same. I know this is really difficult for you to understand. And that means that means your mind is not ready to accept this. But I want you to understand the truth, that's it. I don't want you to follow this. That means I don't want you to go to a shop and say that both of them are the same, then why do you charge more? Or I don't want you to practice this, but I want you to practice this in your mind. When we live, we have to live like everyone. But try to understand this. In your mind, if you have more value to this, that means to the bouquet, then actually you are mad. You are mad means actually, I can't say you are mad, you are ignorant. But when I say ignorant, I'm not talking about the education. I'm talking about ignorance, which means not knowing about something. You don't know about this. You believe what you perceive. You believe your decisions. If you believe your decisions, first of all, you need to check your facts, ladies and gentlemen. If you have to make a decision, if you have those criteria to make a decision, first of all, you need to check those criteria. When you check those facts, if they are correct, you will make a proper decision. Otherwise, you will make a wrong decision. This is what happened. Are you sure about your mental knowledge about the world? But we always act as we are 100% sure about it. That's why some people don't want to learn about this. They think that they are correct. They always make decisions with their knowledge. That's how we used to be. We thought that our fathers, our elders, they are so ignorant. That's how we thought. They don't know anything. This is how we thought. Because we always think that our decision is right. Our knowledge is right. But I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, if you make decisions with wrong knowledge, you will fail. I think I don't have to say that. You have experienced it. You have experienced it. Therefore, we need to check our knowledge. That's why the Buddha taught us the truth. He asks us to understand the truth. He asks us to understand the truth and practice the truth. When we practice the truth means when we make decisions, we always apply that truth into that. This is what you need to do. But before that, you need to know the truth. That's why in our sermons, we always talk about the truth and we ask you to apply that into your life. Apply that into your life means when you make a decision, that should be applied. When you make a decision means, when do you make decisions? When you make decisions, ladies and gentlemen? Tonight? When? Every time. Every time. When the mind is created, the mind has to make decisions. As I told you, because the mind can only perceive a color. If the mind can only perceive a color, then it has to make decisions, because it has to create other things, because those are mental illusions. The mind has to make decisions, which means mind has to think or assume, perhaps. By using these colors, the mind has to create the picture. After that, the mind has to name it, interpret it. After that, the mind has to make the decision. The mind always makes a wrong decision, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, you always see object in these processes. This is a process, but you see an object. You see an object means, actually, you see color. You see a color. Okay? What do you see? When you see, you only see a color here. Then why do you say that this is a cube? Are you sure? Are you sure that this is a cube? Well, normally, you are sure. No, you never think that, oh, this is a cube. No, it's a human being. No, it's a cube. No, you never struggle to identify this. You straight away identify this as a cube. I think you don't have any doubt. That means you made your decision. And you are proud of that. You are proudly say, you proudly say that this is a cube. That means you are 100% sure about this. That's why I told you, when you make a decision, the mind believes it 100 to the fullest. Therefore, it is very dangerous. The very first thing we must do is, we need to educate our mind. We need to let our mind see the truth before it starts making decisions. When did it start making decisions? When that happened? First time. When we were born. If you only consider about this life. Let's only consider about this life. If everybody believes that. From that mind, or from that occasion, until today, you always make decisions. You always make decisions, and you have been seeing, you have been identifying objects and beings. Therefore, your mind has been attached to those things, and your mind has been vexed and you have been so busy to come out of vexation. If you can see the truth will be applied. When the truth will be applied, you will create or you will make a correct decision. When you make a correct decision, then you won't suffer. Therefore, I want you to understand that this is not a cube. This is only a process. Therefore, see this and try to understand how the cube is created in your mind. Try to see the truth. The truth is, only colors are perceived. After that, the mind adds wrong knowledge into that. Then what is the correct knowledge? What is the correct view? That's how the Buddha taught us. For that correct knowledge, the Buddha said, the correct view. Samma Ditti. You should understand Samma Ditti. You should achieve Samma Ditti. When you have Samma Ditti, that means you have correct knowledge. When you have correct knowledge, you can always apply that correct knowledge into your decisions. The mind always makes decisions, ladies and gentlemen. In Abhidharma, it says Vottapana. The mind has to make decisions. You need to understand that the mind has to make decisions because the mind is the creator. The mind is the creator of your own world. Therefore, the mind has to follow those rules. It has to create its rules and it has to follow them. Now, the mind has different rules, but that's not the rule of nature. The Buddha taught us the rule of nature. That's why we need to learn those rules, and those rules must be applied. Then if everyone can apply that, then everyone will perceive the same thing. Therefore, if you take two arahants, their decision making is the same. They have the same value. But in your world, those values are different. And it has values and those values are different. In an arahant's world, those values are the same. Actually, they don't have values because actually they don't have values. This doesn't have any value unless you add mentally. This doesn't have any value, which means this doesn't have any human being here unless you add. Therefore, when you see these colors, you add a human being into that. Therefore, you are the creator. Then why do you create, ladies and gentlemen? When you see these colors, why do you create a human being? Are you desperate of creating a human being? Do you really want to become a god or what? Why do you want to create beings and objects? Because we need to think about that as well. Whenever you see colors, you try to create an object. Whenever you see a color, then you try to create a shape. After that, you try to create a being. Therefore, when you see this kind of thing, then you only see a color or some colors, and after that, you create a being. I think you are fond of beings or creating beings because perhaps you want to be God. Otherwise, tell me the reason. Why do you add a being into this? We always do that, ladies and gentlemen. We always do that. We always do that. Because of that, we suffer. Objects and beings. That's the only thing you do, actually. Colors are perceived, and then you create an object. You create a being. Then when you create a being, then he is your husband. Then who's the creator of your husband? Who's the creator of your wife? You. You create them. When you see them, try to understand that when you see this whiteboard, what can you see? Whiteboard or white? The color white. You only perceive the color white. That's it. That's the only thing you perceive. But after that, you create an object. It happens automatically, I know. But we need to find the reason behind that. Well, otherwise we live in an illusional world. This color is created in your mind, that's correct. But this is not an object. That is illusional. Then you have to live in that illusional world. Like you have a family. Yeah? Do you have a family? Yes. Where? Where? In your mind. You have a family. You associate with your family. You talk to your husband, you talk to your spouse, whoever. In your mind. You do all these things in your mind, ladies and gentlemen, because you can perceive your family illusionally. Otherwise, your family must be the color blue, the color black, the color green, whatever. Those colors, because the mind can only perceive those things. After that, the mind, which means, perhaps you have heard, Mano Pubbanga Madhamma, Mano Setta, Manomaya. The mind is the greatest thing. The mind is a superior. The mind is superior to everything, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, the mind, when the mind is vexed, the mind uses these senses to create objects and beings. When the mind is vexed, or when the mind is so ignorant, and it believes that beings and objects exist, now the mind has to create it. It's like, let's assume that you are a rich person and you believe that there is a gem underneath the earth. If you strongly believe that, then you will use all of your servants to dig the floor, dig the ground, and try to take it. This is what happened to the mind as well. Because the mind is superior to everything. Therefore, when the mind is ignorant, and if the mind believes in beings, or the concept of being, if the mind believes the concept of being, because it's only a concept, There is no such thing called a being. There is no such thing called an object. It's only a concept. But the mind believes it. When the mind believes it, the mind can use these senses. Therefore, first of all, the mind uses itself to think about it. Therefore, when you think about this object, you think about this object. Yeah? Not the process. Can you think about this process if you don't use the Dhamma? All the time when you think about something, you think about an object or a being. That means the mind uses itself first, because there are 6 senses and the 6th one is again the mind. And first one, eyes and colors. The mind uses eyes and colors. Because the mind wants to create that object. Because the mind believes that. Can you understand what I'm saying? The mind believes it. Therefore, the mind has to create it. The problem is, nature doesn't have this option. Nature has energy. Nature is energy. And after that, the mind can create some colors. That's also natural. Apart from that, the mind can't get anything from nature. A taste is nature. That's fine. A color is nature. A sound is nature. A smell is nature. A touch is nature. A thought is nature. That's fine. But after that, a being, that's not nature. But if the mind believes that, then the mind has to create it. Therefore, the mind uses these 6 senses to create those things. That's how you see these things, ladies and gentlemen. That's how you create objects. You take things from eyes, ears, nose, and you create them. You will do this forever. Because you have been doing that, and you should know that if you don't stop today, and you will do it tomorrow as well. You will do it tomorrow, day after tomorrow, and forever. And suffer as well. In order to stop that, then we need to understand the truth behind this. Why do you create this? Because you believe it. Why do you believe it? Because of wrong views. Then if you can purify those views, if you can observe correct views, perhaps the mind won't believe that. But right now the mind believes that object exists and being exists. That means everything is fixed and unique in this world. That's how the mind believes. Everything is fixed and unique. But the truth is, this is not an object, this is a process. This is not fixed or this is not specific. This is not an object. This is a process. But the mind doesn't want to believe that. Because of its wrong views. That's why we need to use anicca. That's why the Buddha came to this world. Just to teach us. Anicca, dukkha, anatta. If you learn anicca, dukkha, anatta, that means you have correct views. That means you won't believe in, or you won't believe objects and beings. Because when you take an object, you think that that object is fixed and specific and unique. That's why it is called an object. When you use raw materials, you never tell that it's an object. If you take a piece of wood and you never say that it's an object, but if you make a chair, then you say that that is an object. Because you know that now it is over. That process is over. And it is fixed now. Therefore it is special. It is unique. It's a chair. It's not a table. It's chair. If it is a chair, if it is not a table, that means it is fixed and specific and unique. And what about a human being, or whatever being? It is fixed. And what about yourself? And you strongly believe that you have been in this world. You have been. That means you have been fixed, and you have been yourself all the time. That means you have been special, and you have been unique. Therefore you believe yourself. And other beings as well. But when you see some colors, again, some colors, moving colors. And some shapes are created in your mind. And from your childhood, your teachers, your elders taught you those shapes. Therefore you know the name of this shape. You know the name of this shape. We learn. And you know the name of this shape. And this shape. We learned. These shapes are created in our mind, and after that, because of ignorance, we add a being into this. And we add an object into this. That's ignorance. But colors are perceived and shapes are created. That's not ignorance. That happens. That's one of the abilities of the mind. The mind can aggregate things and perceive it. Therefore, mind can see more colors at once. First of all, colors must be created, and after that, those colors are aggregated, and that aggregated colors can be perceived. That's why you can see this bouquet of flower, and it has different colors. And sometimes at the same time you can hear, because it's an aggregation. If it is an aggregation, it has many things. The mind can perceive it. That's how you see a world. Otherwise, you can only see a color. If the mind doesn't have that ability, you can only see a color, one color at a time. Perhaps you will forget. Then when you see this body, you see this, and when you come to this point, you will forget that. That can happen. In that case, we can't live. Therefore, the mind has an ability to perceive an aggregation of colors or senses. That's how you can see a big picture here. From there you can see not only one color, but also many. Sometimes at the same time you can hear, you can smell, because it's an aggregation. But that's not ignorance. Ignorance is when the aggregation is created and the mind adds a being into that. Actually, now I can't imagine, ladies and gentlemen. Before, I don't know how that happened. But however, now I can't imagine when the shape is created. Why do we add a being? Can you imagine that? Why? Why a being? Can't we live without beings? Can't we live without objects? Why do we try to fix them? Why do we make them unique? Now in this case, you should understand that that's the wanting of the mind. That means that's the belief of the mind. That's why we need to help the mind to purify its views. Otherwise, it will use this entire body to be satisfied. Just imagine this. When you want to see something, let's assume that you want to see this pen. But I hate it. But you really want to, that means your mind believes that it's an object and it is a unique object. If it is not unique, then you can see something as well. Then why do you really want to see this? Because this is unique. This is fixed and unique. Therefore, you need to see that. It means you want to see that. Your mind wants to see that. When your mind wants to see it, but now it can't see. Therefore, you will come here all the way. From there, you will come here, and you will come to the stage. And what will you do? Will you eat this and go? Just imagine that. You will look at this and go. That's what you do. When you go on holiday, what do? That's it. You look, okay, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. And you pay some money as well. Okay, let's go. Can you be satisfied with your richness? You are very rich, but so I'm not going to say that word, but you should realize that word. Very rich and very well educated, but so because you had to do that, ladies and gentlemen, you had to do that because you go there and you look on something and you get it. Get it means that those colors are perceived. That's it. Those colors are perceived. After that, the machine starts and creates a being or an object. That's how it is. You look at this and you take those colors, then a shape is created. After that, a being is added. Then you think that you saw a being. If you go to a zoo, then you see different colors, And you take those colors and put into that, and you make means the mind makes beings, and you think that you saw or you have seen many beings. And you name them elephant being, an elephant being, an ant being, and all these beings. Therefore, then you think that you have seen beings in your life. But I'm telling you, you haven't seen, or you haven't been seeing any being or an object. You have been creating those things. You have been creating and perceiving it. Because the mind is so desperate to perceive a being, because it strongly believes that beings exist and objects exist, that means fixed and unique things exist. Therefore, we need to understand anicca. When you understand anicca, you will realize that nothing is fixed in this world. Hetum paticca sambhutang hetu bhanga nirujjati. Everything must be a sambhuta, an effect. When it comes to an effect, it manifests. Every effect must manifest. You can't take an effect from one place to another. It appears, it manifests, it suddenly manifests. When causes are there, it manifests. Try to understand that manifestation. The Buddha used the word bhuta, a sudden manifestation. A ghost appears, suddenly appears. It doesn't come from this point to that point. It appears. Manifestation is also the same. When causes are there, something manifests. That means an effect manifests, I would say. I can't say something manifests, but I will use that word. Something manifests. But don't take that word something, because that is not a thing. It's a process. Thing means something fixed. If something fixed, that's a thing. We can't name a process as a thing. Everything is a process. Therefore, everything is not a thing. Everything is a process. But let me use that word, however. Then, due to causes, an effect manifests. An effect manifests. For that manifestation, effects only causes are needed. Only causes are needed. We don't actually, the place is not applicable. Time is not applicable. When causes are there, an effect manifests. To make a fire, we need oxygen, we need critical temperature, and we need some wood or something, wool or something. When these three causes are added, an effect manifests. That manifestation is called fire. An effect manifests. Where? And when? Answer these two questions, please. Where and when? These causes are there now. Because of these three causes, an effect manifests. Where and when? When you use the theory of cause and effect, you can remove all these things and you can take only that theory. The world is explained by the theory of cause and effect only. The place is not applicable. The time is not applicable. Actually, a place means another incident. There is no such thing called a place. It's hard to believe, isn't it? It's very hard. Because we always believe places and time. If the place is applicable, apply a place into this. Oxygen, critical temperature, and some wool, a piece of wood. Can I add one? But don't tell that I'm insane, okay? But I'll add. At 8:30 a.m. Do you want me to add a place as well? In the temple. Will it make any change? Any difference? Then this is useless. What else is useless? The person who ignites it? Oh, John. Oh, Anne. Who? Can I put your name? Will it make any difference? Will it make any change? No. Then the person, the place, the time is not applicable. That means that doesn't exist, or they don't exist. Actually, the world is simplified, ladies and gentlemen. When you understand the Dhamma, the whole world will be simplified to a small theory. To a small theory, that's not a small theory. It explains the entire world, but there is only one theory, that is the theory of cause and effect. When it comes to the theory of cause and effect, these things are inapplicable because actually you can apply and check. Don't just believe my words, my understanding. Apply and you can apply. You can apply and you can believe it after that. That's called conviction. You have to take these things with conviction. That's called Shraddha. If you want, you can use another example, any example you want, according to your knowledge. Sound, touch, anything. Because everything is an effect. Everything is an incident. When you talk about a place, actually we are talking about an incident. Okay, look at this. This pen is on this. What is that? Eraser. Okay. Whiteboard eraser. Okay. Now this is on this. On this. This is on this. What is this? Is this a place or a process? Is this a place or process? What is this? This is also a process. This is also a process. Then why do you say that this is on this? Or can you say that there is a rain on a rain? This is not a place. This is a process. What about this table? This is not a place. This is a process. What about this stage? Where am I? Where? Are you going to say that I'm on the stage? Yes, you can tell that, ladies and gentlemen, because you believe that this is a person, and this is an object. Therefore, some objects can be a place, because you believe that. But if this is a process, and if this is also a process, there is a process and there is a process, that's it. Then how can you define a process? You have to use the only theory. What is that? The theory of cause and effect. Then if you want to define this, you can apply that theory and say that when causes are there, an effect manifests, because this is only a process, this is only an effect. Therefore, when it comes to the stage is also a process. And this table is also a process. Therefore, you can only see processes. Therefore, you can't find any place. You can't find any place or a person or a being. But if you practice this, you will win. Otherwise, you will hear this and that's it. Practice this means when you make decisions, I want you to apply that. That's called practicing. When you make decisions, you don't know when you make decisions, it happens all the time. Therefore, you have to use the Dhamma all the time. That's why the Buddha said, Dhammaramo Dhammarato Dhammang Anuvicintaya. Dhammang Anusaram Bhikkhu Saddhammana Parihayati. The Buddha said that you have to create a temple of Dhamma, temple of the Dhamma in your heart. That means you have to live in the Dhamma. The Dhamma means the doctrine of the Buddha, which means the truth, the only truth in the world. If you can live in there, that's why you need the association, that's why you need to discuss the Dhamma, you need to preach and you need to listen, you need to chant. There are 5 ways called Pancha Vimuktayatana. There are 5 ways you can practice the path all the time. When you practice those 5 ways, you live in the Dhamma. You live in the Dhamma means the mind is in the Dhamma. That means the mind has an immersive environment to practice the Dhamma. Therefore, when the mind uses when the mind uses the truth, the mind makes correct decisions. Then the mind won't see any objects, any being. Then you won't get attached. Otherwise, you will always get attached to things and you will suffer. Attachment is the cause of suffering. Attachment is the cause of fear. Tanhaya jayati soko tanhaya jayati bhayam. The Buddha said. Attachment is the cause of fear, cause of suffering, cause of lamentation. Whatever the things mental irritation, so mental suffering, all sort. Attachment is the problem. Then if the attachment is created, then the mind has to suffer. But the thing is, the attachment is created due to ignorance. Therefore, we can eradicate ignorance by understanding the Dhamma and live in the Dhamma. That's why I want you to practice the Dhamma. I want you to stay in the Dhamma. That is, whatever you do, that's fine, ladies and gentlemen. You can work, you can do whatever you want. But I want you to stay in the Dhamma. While you are teaching, perhaps you are teaching in our school. But while you are teaching, I want you to apply the Dhamma. You can apply the Dhamma because while you are teaching to kids, yeah. And can you see kids? Oh, Can you see processes? Hmm? Where do you teach? Again, now we have another thing to talk. Where do you teach? At school. When you talk at school, what? School? What is that? It's not a place. It's a process. Then if you can see that it's a process, if you see children as processes, but don't talk about these things with others, okay? Otherwise they will think, oh, these people think that children are processes. That doesn't mean that we don't care. That doesn't mean that we don't love. We care for them. We care for them. We don't care for beings. We care for processes. That's okay. You can do whatever you have been doing to your children with suffering. You can continue without suffering. You fed your children. You saw a child in your mind, and you put some food. You saw food. You didn't see a process. You didn't see, because food is an object to you. But when it comes to reality, it's a process. Actually, it's a process. It has electrons, protons, neutrons, and it has intermolecular bonds, and that means it's a process. Then if you take some food, then actually those particles are moving here and there. We can't see that, but that happens. It's a process. But we can't see that process, we only see a color. That's why color is not dancing, but food is. Food is dancing. Everything is dancing, ladies and gentlemen, because it's a process. Everything is dancing like this. But we can't see that because colors are not dancing, because our mind is not dancing. That's why we always see a fixed figure or a fixed something. But this is not fixed, it's dancing. Dancing means it's moving here and there, and we know that it has particles. It consists of particles, and particles are not stationary. That's why this has a natural frequency. These particles have a natural frequency. Natural frequency means it's moving. Nothing is stationary in this world. If these particles are moving, then you should know that this is a process. This is not an object. This is not fixed. No, this is not. If this is not fixed, then this mustn't be unique. But you can't see this. You can't perceive this because you can only perceive your mind. You can perceive only your mind, then the mind perceives only colors. Colors are not dancing, but this is dancing. These particles are dancing, but we can't see that. If we can see that, then we should believe anicca. We will definitely believe anicca. But now we can't believe anicca, and we need to understand anicca. Not by seeing, by thinking. Otherwise, we should be able to see. If we can see this. Therefore, when you take some food, then actually that food is not food. That's a process. What about your hand? That's also a process. Then can you say that food is on my hand? Can you say that this is on my hand? But to live in this world, we can create all these things, ladies and gentlemen. We can talk about that, and don't use these things in your normal life. then they will definitely tell that you are mad, you are insane, but always see the truth and practice the truth. Therefore, when you feed your children, you feed, if you can see the process, then you won't get attached. You perceive a human being in you, ladies and gentlemen, therefore you love other human beings and other beings. You can't live without other beings. That's why it says a human being is a social animal. Because it can think. It can think and therefore it can create. It means a human being, a human mind. The human mind can think, therefore the human mind can create things. Therefore the human mind wants some colors to be seen, then the human mind can create many shapes and many beings. That's why people go to a zoo to visit animals. Have you seen any animal come to visit human beings? Why? Are they not social animals? They are, but they don't have that mental capacity. They don't know what to do. But human beings can understand that. Therefore, human beings go to jungles and zoos, and they go there and they visit animals, they see animals, and they create animals in their mind, and they enjoy it. When is the last time you visited? Have you seen beings? And perhaps you had to take half of the cost of price of the ticket, because you had to create beings. Tell them that. Huh? No, actually, half is not enough. Perhaps we have to give them only 10%. Because colors are created in the mind. Using those colors, shapes are created in the mind. Then shapes are identified, shapes are perceived. After that, beings are added. All these things, all the process of a being happens in the mind, but we pay for beings. You don't have to pay for beings, just pay for processes. Think about that. Whenever you see an animal or a being, don't let your mind be deceived. Try to see the truth. That's it. You won't lose love, ladies and gentlemen, because you didn't have. How can you lose something that you didn't have? You didn't love anyone. I'm sorry to say that, but that's the truth. You didn't love anyone. You used. I always told you. You only used because you used this. I'm telling you, you use this. You use this to create Guru Hamdru in your mind. You don't care what happened to this. Therefore, don't worry about love, because you didn't have, but you will have love after that, because you will be the love. You will be the love when you understand the world. When you understand these, when you understand the processes, that means you will only see processes, not beings and objects. That means the entire world will be the same for you. When you see when someone says that this gentleman is Indian, don't you feel that, oh, he's Indian? Don't you actually feel that he's Indian? Oh, he's American, he's Japanese. Don't you feel that? Think about that lesson. How dare you think that way? Like, creating a being is okay. That being becomes a Sri Lankan, Indian. That's odd. But it happens. That's why when you associate with them, and you associate with them differently. Because you strongly believe that that person is a Sri Lankan or an Indian. That's why you behave differently. That's why you associate with him differently. What's the truth? What is the truth? Is he an Indian? Is he a Sri Lankan? Is he a being, at least? Then do we have Indian processes and Sri Lankan processes? What about animals? Are they animals, ladies and gentlemen? Think deeply. Then you will realize. Then you will see the entire world is the same. Then you will be the love of the world. This will be the greatest victory. Won't it? In that way you can stop fighting, ladies and gentlemen. You don't have to fight after that. Try to achieve this before you die. Otherwise you will come back. Not to attain Nibbana. You will come back to acquire things again. As I told you, ignorance is so dangerous. Therefore, before you go to nursery, you had to come to the temple and learn the truth. You missed that time. Therefore, you had to live in this illusional world for 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years. But still you have some years, some time. Don't waste it. Use the Dhamma. That's it. Use the Dhamma. Try to find a place. Try to think about a place, whether it exists or not. Try to think about time, whether it exists or not. You just need to apply. Apply the theory of cause and effect. And apply time into that. There are some causes, and apply time as well. Apply the person, apply the object. They don't exist. You will realize that they don't exist. Keep applying. Then you will realize it fully. When you realize it fully, you won't expect it. But right now you expect, because you believe that beings exist and objects exist. Fixed things exist. That means things exist. When I say things, the things don't exist, that doesn't mean that nothing exists. Things and the opposite, nothing, both of them are wrong. How? Because it's a process. When it's come to a process, it's not nothing, but it's not fixed. That means it's not a thing as well. And that doesn't mean that anicca is in between things and nothing. Then if you say that anicca or a process is between thing and nothing, then I would say process should be between alpha and beta. I can tell anything. Because thing doesn't exist. If you use, I'm talking about that word. If you use thing, that means that is illusional. If it is illusional, it can be anything. That's what I told you, alpha and beta. If you use nothing, that's also illusional. Therefore, don't say that a process is between thing and nothing. Some philosophers try to say that, but it's, according to my knowledge, it's wrong. We can't talk about thing and nothing because they don't exist. If they don't exist, why do we talk about those things? If something is illusional and doesn't exist, then we can apply anything into that. Likewise, like this, I will give an example. Okay, John is not your father. Your father is Gregory. Then what about Andrew? John is not your father. Andrew is not your father. James is not your father. How many names can you use? That's how it is. Nothing is an illusion. Thing is an illusion. Between two illusions, can something exist? But a process exists. Therefore, a process is not between those two, because those two don't exist. Nothing and thing. Philosophers use it all the time. Then it can be a philosophy. If you can't understand something, that's a philosophy. But the Buddha's theory is our life. It's a philosophy, but it's the way of life. That can be applied in our life very easily. Therefore, you should be able to understand this very easily. Therefore, don't try to make it harder by applying thing and nothing. It's not thing and nothing. Actually, it is a process. That's it. A process. Therefore, whatever you see, whatever you associate with, it's a process. Try to see that. When you talk about a place, let's take a big place, the earth. What about that? Is it a place? Or what is a place? London? If London is a place, apply the Dhamma and see. Is London a place or a process? If you can find atoms, subatomic particles, that can't be a place. That should be a process. Therefore, If you take a specific point in London and take a sample of soil, then you will find subatomic particles. That means it's not a place, it's a process. Then let's take a person, a body. Take a body and take a sample, then you will see subatomic particles. Then it's not a person, it's a process. Then when it comes to the mind, we can't find subatomic particles here because it is a different energy. It's different energy. Therefore, you take Rupa. And now we need to get the wisdom from the Buddha, otherwise we don't know about these things. Then according to the Buddha's system, the Rupa is an effect. It has 5 main causes. Because of those causes, this Rupa manifests. This Vedana manifests, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana manifests. Because of those causes. But in those causes, we can't find a being or an object or a place. Therefore, actually, you can't say that this happens in that place. Some people want to find the place where the mind manifests. Some people think that it happens in the brain, some people think it happens in the heart. Actually, I know the answer. I will tell you that answer if you answer this question. When these 3 causes are added, where the fire is created. There, your mind manifests. Find that place. Look, we can find answers, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, we can find answers. Before we had many questions. When you understand the Dhamma, I think that's what happened. When you understand the Dhamma, you won't have any question. You had those questions because you were so ignorant. I'm sorry. That's what I felt. I was so ignorant. Therefore, I had many questions. When I understand the Dhamma, I realized that those questions were wrong. Perhaps you had a question in your mind when you were a child. What's my name? What's your name? Then, when you understand the Dhamma, you don't have to find that. You won't ask that anymore. Where do I live? What is the most precious thing in the world? Why she is so beautiful than me? Why is handsome? Why doesn't he love me? When you understand the Dhamma, you won't have those problems. You don't have those problems, questions, because you have understood the Dhamma and you have understood that those questions are wrong. Don't you feel that you are so lucky? Because you have this Dhamma. You are so meritorious, ladies and gentlemen, therefore continuously earn merits. That's my request. Earn merits continuously. Help people who want to attain Nibbana. That is the greatest merit you can earn. Supply, offer the 4 basic requisites and give them a chance to listen to the Dhamma, the doctrine of the Buddha. That is the greatest merit you can earn. When you have those merits, you can easily attain Nibbana. You can easily attain Nibbana means you can easily listen to the Dhamma. You will have a chance to listen to the Dhamma, ladies and gentlemen. I know you have been listening to the Dhamma for a long time, because majority of you are older than me. What about this Dhamma? What about the doctrine we discuss? Have you heard it before? The reason is not anything else. The reason is you were not meritorious, but now you are meritorious. You became meritorious. You have become meritorious because of this association. That's why I always tell you, try to associate with noble people. Then you have every opportunity to earn merits. That's why you have this chance to listen to the Dhamma. Every day you learn something new. Something new, but the same. We only talk about anicca, dukkha, anatta. But it's so deep. It's so deep, but we can understand it easily if you have enough merits. That's why I want you to earn merits. Don't forget that. It is very important. Perhaps sometimes you can't understand the Dhamma. That's fine. When you listen to this sermon, if you can't understand it, that's totally okay. Because this is not the last day. You will have many chances if you are meritorious. If you are not meritorious, you will be rejected. You came here because of you are meritorious, because of your merits. Don't ever think that you came here. But that's how you think. I came here. I wanted to attain Nibbana, therefore I came here. No, you were attracted. You were attracted because of your merits and because of your gati. That means your nature of your mind. You have earned merits. You have earned merits, therefore you are so meritorious, and your gati, which means that nature of your mind, was full of merits. Therefore you were attracted. And if you lose merits, you will be rejected. And be attracted to something else. That's how it is. Before, I also thought that people came and they stay with us and they go. People come and go. That's how I thought. But actually, when I understood the Dhamma, then I thought then that came to my mind, the truth. People didn't come. People were attracted and rejected. What should I do? The only thing that I can do is practice the path and attain Nibbana. That's it. And I can guide you, ladies and gentlemen. I can guide you. Therefore, get the opportunity. Whenever you have a chance to offer something to the sasana, offer it. Especially if you know that those people practice the path. That's a good opportunity, very good opportunity, very rare and very good opportunity. You can say that is precious. This is not precious. That is precious. If you can feed them, if you can make a shelter over their head, you can supply their basic requisites, you can earn merit. And you can bring some people to eat food that you supply. But meritorious people, virtuous people. When someone comes here, they become virtuous because they associate with you. When they see you, they will become virtuous. Therefore, if you can open up a path for them, that is one of the biggest merit you can earn. And when they start practicing the path, if you can look after them. Therefore, my personal feeling or my personal belief, this is the truth, but I would say it's my personal belief, because when I talk about your money, I don't want to talk about that, because everybody loves money. I don't insult you by saying that, but if you have money in your account, that is useless. But if you can spend that money, I'm not asking you to do that, but I'm telling you, if you can spend that money to help someone who practices the path and attain Nibbana, that will be the biggest investment in your life. Because if not today, tomorrow you have to attain Nibbana, because this is your destination. I can force you to practice the path, but I can't force you to spend your money. Because you don't love your path, but you love... No, sorry. Leave it. Not only your money, your effort, your knowledge, your reputation. Use your reputation and help others to attain Nibbana. And perhaps you can tell your servant, you can ask from him to come to the monastery and start listening to the Dhamma, or you can give some sermons, then he or she can listen. Or when you come here, then you can build things, you can cook, whatever it is. You can spend money, you can spend anything, but however, you should know how to earn merits out of it. Spending is not merit. Spending money is not earning money. You should know how to earn merits out of your spending or your whatever, your effort or anything. Therefore, however, I want you to be meritorious, because you should understand that you get all these things because of your merits. I can't believe that. I always have a question, but that question is answered. I always have a question. Why do you have a chance to listen to the Dhamma? Perhaps we have only 1 million. Let's assume that 1 million people listen to the Dhamma, the doctrine. Out of that, perhaps 1,000. 1,000 practices. 1,000 understand and practices. Let's assume that. Only 1,000. Out of 8.5 billion people. And you are here, right in front of Guru Handru, and you listen to the Dhamma in Sinhalese, in English, in Hindi, perhaps in Telugu. Can you imagine the power of merits you have? But don't forget that it's not an object. It's a process. It manifests right now. Therefore, this occasion is a process. It manifests right now. That means your merit is used. It's used and creates this opportunity. Perhaps when you are lack of merit, or when you are lacking of merit, perhaps you will fall asleep. You listen to the sermon for half an hour. After that, you fell asleep. Then, after another half an hour, you woke up. What happened that period? You fell asleep. Is that the only definition? You fell asleep. That's it. You lost merit. But if you think that this is fixed thing, this opportunity is fixed, then you might think that it happens because yesterday night I couldn't sleep properly, therefore I fell asleep. Not according to my knowledge. Every second, which means every event, every incident is a process. And it manifests according to your merits or demerits. Which is karma and vipaka. You know karma and vipaka? This is how it is. Therefore, earn merits as much as possible. And the other thing is, perhaps you earn merits and you offer some dana, you offer some food and all this. Then you spend, let's assume that you spend 10 million rupees. You offer 10 million rupees and to the sasana, and you build a house or Dhamma hall. Let's assume that. One of the greatest merits. Okay. In that case, never ever think that now you are full of merits. Otherwise, our Sila Shravikas will think that every day we earn merits, then why should I fall asleep? What about our Anagarikas? Every day we earn merits. Our life is full of merits. That's our life. But we always... The reason is, don't ever think that merits are fixed. They are used. They are used, ladies and gentlemen. To listen to this sermon, you need a huge amount of merit. While you are listening to the sermon, also you can earn merits. Otherwise, actually when you listen to this sermon, or just after you listen to the sermon, perhaps you will become a dog. Did you understand what I mean? Perhaps. Not. It doesn't happen like that, because when you listen to a sermon, if you properly listen to a sermon, you can earn a lot of merits out of that. Sometimes you spend only 100 and you gain 1,000 by listening to a sermon. But properly, not by falling asleep or thinking about something else. Not like that. Otherwise, you will lose your human life, perhaps, because your human life exists because of Because of merits, don't ever think that I'm a human being. No, you are a process. You are a process. You are not a human being. You are a process. Right now, it's a human process. Human type of process. It will, or it can be over within a second. No, with no time. Because time is not applicable. How long will it take to die, ladies and gentlemen? The mind rises and passes away. How long will it take? We can't say that. The mind rises and passes away, and another mind rises and passes away. But if it doesn't rise, and the last mind passes away, the last mind passed away, and the next mind doesn't rise, that's called death. Therefore, how long will it take? Now, are you a human being or are you a human type of process? How long will it take a process to be stopped? How long? A process. With no time, it will stop. Remember this, you are a human type of process. This can stop at any time. And if a dog type of process starts, you will be called a dog. That's why I told you, this is a process, be careful. And people think that this is an object or a being and everything is fixed, and that's for them. Until they realize this, they will have million questions. They will have a million questions and they try to get answered for those things. But when you understand the Dhamma, you won't have any question. The world will be very simple. In this case, I can say, for me, the world is very simple. The doctrine of the Buddha gave me all the answers. Therefore, I don't have questions now. What do you want? At least this mindset, at least. Still I'm practicing the path. At least this mindset, or to become the king of the world. You choose. If you can realize that, you won't fight. Until that, you will fight. Let's practice. Let's practice. Don't forget these things, ladies and gentlemen. You are so meritorious to listen to these things. Perhaps you won't have enough merit to practice it. If you don't practice, this will remain as knowledge, not wisdom. You have to convert this to wisdom, then only the mind use it to make decisions. Okay, then I'll see you next week. May the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem be with you all.